Yep.
All right. So, could you just state your name, year, majors, and your position at ASM?
Sure. Andrew Bulovsky. I'm a junior studying political science and communication arts, and I'm the chair of the Associated Students at Madison for 19th session.
And what is your role as the chair of SSF, or as Student Council?
Primarily my role is to be a facilitator of the rest of the organization and to just be the spokesperson of the organization in general. So my main tangible tasks every week are to run the student council meeting where resolutions are introduced, bylaw changes are made, appointments from nominations board, we approve budgets, the internal budget, SFC budgets. It's basically to be a facilitator as well of campaigns. So people come to me with ideas, they come with me for connections. I can put them in contact with someone who may know how to work on a campaign. So someone comes to me with an issue, I can be like, hey, contact this dean, or I'll email on your behalf and send that forward and set up that meeting, and we can move forward together.
And what is the primary purpose of Student Council as a whole?
Student Council is really a spot where students can come and voice their concerns about campus. So whether it's concerns about campus safety or lack of avenues to be aware about mental health, increasing awareness in general. So Student Council also obviously has a role of representing students, which is difficult on a campus when there's 10 to 12% voter turnout, but it's also to be expected at a campus this large. Student Council really is the heart. It's not the heart and soul of ASM, but it's where everything comes as it goes through in order to get done.
And how does Student Council accomplish this? Like, how is it in its structure, or is it in just connections? How would you?
Primarily the structure. It's just where everything is. So if one of our committees wants to pass a resolution saying something, or stating support for a specific House resolution going through the state Senate or something, or so going through the Assembly, or any bills like that, they would come to Student Council and we would discuss it and approve it. We also work on bylaws that help the organization run more smoothly, in a perfect world at least. It's basically the structure.
And you mentioned different committees. Can you give us a couple examples?
Yeah, well, we have a few grassroots committees. We have the University Affairs Committee, which works on obviously university issues, legislative affairs, which works more with the state and the university administration. Then we have Diversity Committee, which works with diversity and climate issues on campus. We have Shared Governance Committee, which appoints students to the hundreds of shared governance boards and committees across campus.
And those committees, are they under the direct control, would you say, of Student Council?
I wouldn't say control. I would say there's definitely a hierarchy in ASM, and Student Council goes down like that into the grassroots committees and everything. But they still are able to work on their own projects. They have their own committee chairs who have a lot of discretion on the projects and campaigns they take up. So Student Council is definitely not in control of it, but they are kind of they're not even an oversight body really. They're just there as like a check, I guess, and to make sure the whole organization is held together.
Now, I've been told that the Chancellor has almost complete control over anything that ASM does. He's able to strike down anything that goes through. Is that true?
That's definitely not true.
Definitely not true?
No, thank God too. No, we're lucky in Wisconsin. We have the state statute 36095, which gives us shared governance. It gives us primary responsibility over the distribution of segregated fees. So we have a lot of control actually. And the Chancellor is not in control of our agenda or anything. If he suggested something or wanted it changed, it would have to be approved by the chair of ASM and ASM. There's nothing he can unilaterally strike down. It has happened before. There's been some notice of claims and some potential legal action that's actually resulting of that right now, but he cannot just do that, no. We all work together.
Okay. Now, when you say chair of ASM, is that you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the chair. I'm like the head of one of the. In ASM we have the Student Services Finance Committee branch. Then we have the Student Judiciary, which is the second branch of ASM, and then we have Student Council, which is like the legislative branch of ASM. So I'm the head of the legislative branch of ASM, as well as the spokesperson and the head of the organization itself. So I kind of serve two roles.
Can you give us some examples of how Student Council itself has affected the students in recent years, not just ASM?
ASM Student Council. Student Council has a much more indirect effect on the students. It comes through approving the budgets that come through every year. So one example actually is 17th session allocated $75,000 for a commencement speaker fund, and the senior class officers of last year used that to bring in Neil deGrasse Tyson for senior day last spring. We're trying to do the same thing this year and the same thing next year, trying to work on ways to institutionalize that. So that's one really big way, is that like student council approved that fund and made that happen for students.
I've been told that ASM kind of works in a parliament structure. Would you say that that's right?
Yeah, I would actually. It's definitely a pseudo-parliament because it's not perfect and the constituencies are slightly different, but that's a bunch of political science and stuff. But anyway, it does, because leadership is elected directly through the body itself. So my title is chairman, but a more appropriate title would be prime minister, because I'm directly elected from student council, which is directly elected from the student body. So I'm an indirect leader. It's much different than a presidential system, and also the body has more control over my own actions, and also the actions of the vice chair and other chairs in general, and they can be removed easier. So it's another form of accountability, I guess.
This one's not on the sheet, but what are the biggest flaws of ASM, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the big flaws with ASM is that we don't actually have a presidential system as part of the problem, and we don't have a lot of outreach on campus. We have outreach, but it's very difficult to energize a student body when no one knows who the leader of the organization is. I didn't run a presidential campaign. I ran a campaign for council and then talked to 33 people on council, that's how many representatives there are, to elect me. Whereas if we had a presidential campaign, it would be massive outreach across campus in order to secure the votes to win the presidency, with very similar powers as well. And the benefit of that would be to, I guess, increase ASM's reach on campus, and to also have a more concrete understanding of what each candidate for the office represents. That's what's one of the big issues. Also, we have term limits as well, and a very high turnover rate, as I mentioned before, actually. And a lot of representatives get very sick of it. They get bored with the debate and the cynicism, so they simply leave. So maybe getting rid of that and trying to find some people and encourage a more friendly atmosphere in ASM would help ASM in general.
It almost sounds like there's a stability issue. Would you say that ASM is unstable?
No, I say ASM is stable. It's obviously, I mean, the problem is too, obviously, if we have one-year terms, things change and they go back and forth between like different like parties and different like ideologies and people who have different perspectives on what student government should be. I definitely would not say it's unstable. I would say that it's up in the air for the specific type of leadership you're going to find every year.
How would you propose that ASM try to reach out more to students?
I mean, that's what we're trying to do right now, right? That's talking to the press more is one big way. I would be a huge proponent of the presidency, trying to increase outreach through elections. We have a pretty significant budget for the Student Elections Commission to run the elections and to send campus emails, have it on the websites, have signs on Bascom, but we could use even more, obviously. And part of the problem is you're never going to have perfect outreach on this campus, and it's such a wide, this extremely spread out campus. You're not going to find everyone. You're still going to have pretty low voting turnout no matter what. There's only so much you can do.
In your personal experience and opinion, how has ASM most affected students?
Do you like your study day that you get before finals? I mean, that right there is like one of the biggest things ASM has done, is give students a 24-hour study day the day after the last day of classes before finals week begins. More library being open 24 hours. That's something ASM does. Those are very tangible ways. ASM also, Neil deGrasse Tyson, other things that ASM has done. But other things that ASM does may not be as sexy, I guess. It's doing its job, allocating $47 million of segregated fees every year to whether it's UHS or rec sports or different general student services funds in our registered student organizations. We allocate funds to organizations. You talk to some people who deal with finance committee. They'll tell you that ASM helped us put on our event.
When you say you're talking in general ASM, when you say allocating funds, not you specifically.
Yeah, general ASM.
Okay, just making sure. What would you change about ASM? Well, we kind of covered this, but besides the presidency, is there anything else that you would try to change?
I would try to change the length of terms, I guess, of representatives. As opposed to having just simply one-year terms, having overlapping two-year terms. So it's kind of the way the Senate would work. Like every year you'd have about half of the council being up for re-election, and then the next year they have the other half up for re-election. That way provides some continuity between the years and also provides for leadership development. So one year you're a freshman representative and you're just learning the ropes, understanding Robert's rules, parliamentary procedure. The next year you're able to maybe be the chair of university affairs or run for vice chair at ASM. You're able to do those things.
And we're wrapping up here. Is there anything else that you think that, I mean, this is almost like a podium for you, basically.
Sure.
So what you would like to say, what you would like me to look into, what you would like, what you think is important that I might have missed?
No, they might have missed. I mean, just not necessarily you, but everyone in general. Is that like ASM, obviously it does, have issues with outreach and everything, and have the understanding of what it does on campus. But it is a very important institution on campus that has a lot of power, whether or not students realize it. I mean, $1,100 every year through segregated fees basically come to us that we have control in some way over, and that's not to be underestimated.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, really.
Yeah.
Thank you.